Welcome back to Capes, Cowls, and Conversations. My name's Tim Neal. This is Cameron and Connor, and we are geared up and excited to talk about Ironheart. Probably more excited than some people are because we've already done this episode once, and man, I blew it. I don't even know how to describe how I blew it, but managed to not record audio the first time around. So let's give this another go.
Honestly, I'm kind of glad for the error because I went back and watched the entire show from beginning to end.
Yep.
I'm okay with that. I actually appreciate it more for that.
Well, and I appreciate the whole show. We did the first 3 episodes the first time. I still think that the weakest episode is the first episode.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
By far, it's the weakest episode, but I definitely appreciate the whole show having watched it. Like if they released this show 1 episode at a time, I'm not sure I would have gotten through it based on the first episode.
The broken 3 episode thing, still didn't like it either, actually, honestly.
I didn't love it, but I like it better than 1 episode at a time.
Oh, yeah. But I feel like if they're doing something where it's like only 6 episodes and it's not anything longer than that, they should have just released it all at once.
Or made it into a movie.
I was going to say, to be fair, it could have been made into a made-for-TV, hour and a half long movie on each side, and I would have been fine with it. Why break it up with credits?
No, I was going to say, that first episode, honestly, could have been condensed a lot, and episode 4 probably could have been condensed.
So that's the other thing, right? Do you guys feel like the first episode and the 4th episode were kind of the weak points of the whole show?
Yeah, they could have taken both episodes, cut them down, and then made episodes 2 and 3 and 5 and 6 into movie length. You could watch that whole thing as a movie. I think that would have been a better choice.
I really do feel like they rushed not several, but at least a good few parts that should have been expanded on more.
Rushed?
Yes.
What was rushed?
Definitely the Mephisto part.
Really?
That I feel like could have been like its own. If they were still doing following the episode formula, that could have just been its own episode.
I disagree. I actually think it was perfect length. I think we got enough of Mephisto to tease him for the future.
Assuming there will be a future.
Assuming there will be. Yeah. Actually, that is probably the most disappointing part is the future.
Well, I mean, we'll see. Some of the things we can talk about that. Some of the things that I think the show leads up to were indefinitely shelved, but not necessarily canceled outright.
2 things were affected by two things this show is supposed to be a part of was affected. Captain America: Brave New World's main plot line for the Serpent Society was supposed to be run by Zeke. It was supposed to take place after the show, and he was supposed to be developing cyborg tech for them, and he would have been a main character or a main side character in the movie. His whole role was cut because the show was delayed. And then the other one was Armor Wars. She was supposed to be a significant character in the plot of Armor Wars, and that also got shelved.
So that's not the only thing that got shelved.
Oh, what was the other thing?
Strange Academy got shelved.
Oh,
but it got shelved indefinitely, not canceled. Where I think Armor Wars might be canceled.
I thought they were discussing Strange Academy as a possibility with this show after they got released.
No. So Strange Academy was already planned before the show.
That was
it got indefinitely shelved when this show sat on the shelf for so long.
Oh, what's Strange Academy?
So her mom's friend's daughter, the little sorcerer girl.
Yeah.
Between her and I think there's another character. There are a couple of characters that are supposed to be picked up and learn at Comertage and go through Magic Academy.
Oh, okay.
See,
as students of Comertage and potentially Doctor Strange, but he wouldn't probably be the actual teacher.
Yeah, it probably would have been Wong again. Honestly,
it most likely would have been Wong.
But I liked Zelma. I thought she was great.
Yeah, she's fine.
Knowing that Strange Academy was the thing, I'm glad it was her then because I hope they do Strange Academy then. But man, I was missing Runaways for a minute because I was like,
She kind of resembles that girl from Runaways.
I was hoping it was Nico Minoru, honestly.
She kind of resembles Nico, for sure.
I like Nico. I miss Nico as a character. So either one would have worked for me.
Wait, was that the character that they introduced in
the Spider-Man cartoon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You would have been better watching. Well, maybe watching Runaways just to know the character at least a little bit, but that's fine.
But they're not related.
They're not related, but it's the same character.
Okay.
Yeah, so episode 1, Ironheart, I thought was super weak, to be perfectly honest. But it being a weak episode that made it hard to, I mean, it really was kind of a slog to get through. It did set up some really cool things, I think. The fact that she had to create her own AI, which I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt like Natalie was incredibly annoying when she first was created.
But
Definitely
intentionally so.
at the first, but as
She had to grow on me.
yeah,
But it was intentional, and I think that's okay because she's annoyed by her. Like she's like, please leave. Like you're not even supposed to be here. I don't want you here. You're just an AI and an accident. Go away. She's annoyed, so I think you're supposed to be annoyed.
yeah.
And then she kind of grows on. She even grows on her a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that was intended. I don't know if that was intended. For me though, she was annoying at first.
I did feel that at first, but watching it back, I actually once I was like, oh, she's supposed to grow on the character. She grows on.
I will admit, I went out and looked up some information on the comics because I also was misinformed a little bit. When you hear about RiRi, the thing that I noticed came up the most was people talking about how Tony Stark was her AI. And at some point in the comics, he is her AI. But this actually stayed pretty true to the comics from what I understand now, and I didn't realize that. So if I had known that Natalie was a part of the comic and that was her original AI, it wouldn't have annoyed me as much. But I was sitting here going, I wonder who they're going to make her AI since Tony's supposed to be her AI. And because it was her, I was like, man, what a cheap cop-out to make her best friend her AI. And then now that I know that the comics did that, I felt a little bit less upset about it. I just thought that was just a cop-out. And apparently it's not just a cop-out.
It's it is a cop-out in the comics for Miles Morales. This is a little bit of a side tangent, but they kind of did the same thing. Originally, Miles Morales' origin story was that Peter Parker died and he takes up the mantle. But then they had to incorporate him to the 616 universe. So his canon backstory is not that Spider-Man died and he took on the mantle. It's that he got powers and then a random best friend who isn't Genki Leeds dies, and that's why he becomes Spider-Man. So it is a cop-out.
Okay.
For one. Yeah, it is a cop-out for one character, just not this one. This one is actually part of her backstory.
Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but all right.
So
I'm frozen.
So
Oh, fun.
so once I saw that, I feel less bad about it, but that was a thing that I didn't love.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know. I thought it was kind of a weird thing at first, and I was like, it was okay. I think a lot of comic book fans, when they see something adapted to the screen, want to jump to a specific time point that they enjoy the most when it comes to a character. And so you'll see a lot of people that are like, I want to see symbiote Spider-Man. I want to see that at some point. Or like for Batman, they really want to see some version of the Joker appear. And then they're like wanting to rush that. And it's like, you got to build to it. So I want to see RiRi with Tony Stark at some point. But that's not really a good starting point for her character. I'm not even sure that her with Shuri was a good starting point for her character. So I want to see that stuff later, but I don't want to see that as her beginner.
I mean, I don't know how you guys feel. I feel like starting her in Black Panther 2 was a horrible idea given the way that this goes. To me, the two things feel disjointed.
Yeah.
They feel disjointed because RiRi
is even like very hesitant on the idea of asking Shuri for help.
Right.
Especially since and this is kind of what made sense to me, is like I feel like Shuri would have, because as far as I'm aware of, the Wakandan tribe at least knows something about like magic and other like mystical stuff.
Well, think about it for a second, just for a second. Like, first of all, Shuri makes the armor with her in Wakanda.
Yeah,
You know, so the armor's there, and then they take it away.
which that's another
Makes
thing
no
that-
sense because they
after-
know that she was
Yeah.
building the armor at MIT. So she
Yeah.
had her own armor at MIT. The Wakandans were aware of that. And they know she's going to come back and make armor. So why take it away at all?
If she's just gonna make another one.
I think it was supposed to be a resemblant of an arc that Tony goes through in Asgard, where he goes to Asgard, builds a suit out of Uru metal, and then he is forced to leave it in Asgard because they don't want Asgardian technology falling onto Earth. I think.
Oh, is that the Iron Hammer thing?
It's no, that's from a multiverse thing.
Oh.
It's another. It's just one of his mini armors that he's had over the years. There was an arc in Asgard where he got a specialized armor made of Uru metal, and he was forced to leave it in Asgard. He wasn't allowed to take it with him. So I think just they were trying to do something similar. It was like it's made with vibranium, so it's technically black or Wakanda technology. So like she can't take it with her.
Well,
But
'cause
that's
they
dumb.
really
Steve
don't-
Shield.
For Wakanda, that's dumb. I agree. For Asgard, that makes sense, but I think the
No,
point was to.
But I get it, but we're.
But
No, I get
also,
what you're saying.
Wakanda's very protective over vibranium.
Yeah, they're inconsistently protective. of
Inconsistent
that's
because
true.
because Winter Soldier's arm,
Yeah.
Cap shield,
Yep.
I thought we were
Which
getting
was that
science centers that were
explained?
supposed to develop
science centers that were supposed to develop.
Wakanda technology using vibranium in America.
Except if you remember in Wakanda Forever, his mother goes to the United Nations and
right.
she's like, the reason we're not sharing is because you guys are even attacking. And then they bring in those like French soldiers who had tried to
Oh, yeah.
steal vibranium and
We
stuff.
had previously agreed to do this, but now that people are trying to steal it, we're walking it back.
But
yeah.
but
Which-
nevertheless,
Was it ever explained in Captain America, like how they got the vibranium in the first place to make the shield?
I think the idea was something pulled from the comics where they had a group of people in
Howard Stark
Africa.
addresses it.
Does he?
Yeah, in one of the, it take me a minute to
Was
remember
it
where.
Agent Carter?
No, he addresses it in. God, where does
No, it's not the first movie.
at one point he says something to the effect of, "We were donated just this small amount of vibranium from Wakanda for something," and they go, "And you chose to make a shield with it."
Was it? That?
Yes.
I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
it's addressed.
Okay.
It is addressed.
Oh,
it was.
you know
Okay.
what? I think it was Agent Carter. I think that's where because he was.
It
Yeah.
might have been, but
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
you chose to make. They donated the most precious metal on Earth, and you chose to make a shield with it.
Dude, that
I
And
want
then
to
it gets
actually
called
say
a
that it was
frisbee.
Endgame or some.
maybe. I feel like it was Agent Carter though, because
It
they
may have
made
been.
references like that. I wish that show was still canon. That's how good it was.
It may have been, but yeah, I mean, they
Yeah.
did address it. But the fact that they're so with her like that, but then it doesn't make sense. Like she had such a connection with Shuri.
Yeah.
She helped them defend their country, and then she's afraid that they won't help her back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but she's
that
doesn't
also
make any
it
sense.
really
she's a young
doesn't.
adult with anxiety. I think she gets a pass on that.
That
on that
doesn't-
line of thinking.
That doesn't make any sense.
No.
to
I mean,
me.
I've had that thought
Because I
process
feel like
from,
Shuri
I'm
would have been
afraid
glad to
to-
like return the favor to
But
help
that's
her with the
not
problem.
that's not her headspace. Like being
Well,
someone who's been
yeah.
in a similar headspace, asking for help is a lot harder than receiving it.
Mhm.
So you may think, oh, well, I can ask for help, and then be immediately like, no, they'll think less of me for doing it, and so I've been in that headspace before. I can kind of see it from that perspective, but I still feel weird that it took 5 episodes to really reference Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, it did
Like
kinda
that
take a
Shuri
while.
reference doesn't come in till episode 5. That's kind of weird to me. That's the
Yeah.
weird part.
Yeah, I mean,
It seems like anytime they release a show, they really are trying to avoid movie references. but that could just be me.
Sometimes I did. There was a joke that I missed. There was a joke about robots, aliens, and wizards.
Oh, yeah.
It was a tiny reference back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where he's like, "It's one of the big three.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
either
yeah,
robots, aliens, or wizards."
Yeah.
Where did you, what? That was good. I did like that. But I think what also hurts this is the time gap. I mean, it's been 2-3 years since Wakanda Forever, and so it wasn't immediately on everyone's mind.
I don't think that's right.
Well, what do you mean?
I don't think that's right. It seems like they mentioned the time in one of the last two episodes.
No. I mean release date.
Oh, release. Okay, yeah. I was gonna say
Yeah,
like
no.
Zeke references it, and it's only been
No. In canon, it's only been a couple months.
yeah.
Which is weird because the first episode makes it feel like it's been like
forever.
Yeah, they make it
Right.
sound like it's been like a year or two, and it's
Well,
only been
especially
like
because she
4
doesn't
months.
have the car.
Yeah.
That's another good point. The mom bought back the car with what money?
Great question.
Oh.
First of all,
Why
Shuri had the car rebuilt from the river after Wakanda Forever. That's part
Yeah.
of the end of Wakanda Forever. And then somewhere between Wakanda Forever and now, RiRi has managed to sell the car,
Yeah.
but she was at MIT with the car.
Well, let me.
She was at MIT with the car because the car is in Wakanda Forever when she's at MIT. But her mom in Chicago managed to find who she sold it to in Boston or wherever MIT is, Cambridge.
I don't remember.
She managed to find where that person is and buy the car back from Chicago. So it's kind of like how does all this work?
We're gonna do timeline talk. So Wakanda Forever canonically takes place in January, February of 1 year after Endgame, and Ironheart canonically takes place the month before October. It is September because October Werewolf by Night is canonically on October 31st. So Ironheart takes place in September, October.
Because she's in school.
Yes.
She
Yeah,
has to
she's-
be in school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's the start of the school year. It's been
And she already gets kicked out.
Yeah, it's been like 6 or 7 months. So over the summer, she could have gone back home and then sold the car and come back and then had.
She had the car at
But-
MIT, not in Chicago. That's what I'm saying.
The garage is in Chicago.
They went to pick her up to take her to Wakanda at MIT, and she had the car there. That's why it went off the bridge in the first place, because they were being chased by the CIA. And
Car and
that's what I'm saying. She
But
didn't
the
go back
garage-
to
no,
Chicago
because
and sell it because she had it at MIT. That's where it got delivered
that
back
doesn't
to
make
her.
sense because I thought the garage was also in Chicago.
The
Why-
garage is in Chicago.
She
That's
was
what-
in the garage, and I swear she was in the garage. and
she was in a garage.
was it not that
at
garage?
No, she was at MIT. Remember, they went to her dorm room.
Why is okay?
They went to her dorm room.
This is a geological nightmare, and I don't
Right,
wanna track
right.
it.
So that's where I'm saying, like, sometimes the plot holes in this,
They don't really make a whole lot of
you
sense.
didn't really think through this. Like first of all, the car was at MIT. It went off the bridge when they were being chased by the federal government, and they went to Wakanda.
Yeah.
Cherie delivers it back to her at MIT when they let her go back to school.
Yeah.
Then she sells the car, and her mom manages from Chicago to find out who bought the car in Massachusetts, buy it, and bring it back to Chicago. But Cherie won't help RiRi because they left on bad terms, but they didn't leave on bad
No,
terms.
no,
So
no, no,
I know.
yeah.
I know. I'm just saying, like, they needed to do a better job of fleshing this whole story out. It's
Yeah.
little things. The
Yeah.
car doesn't matter except that it becomes her new suit,
Which looks cool.
which looks
yes, that-
cool.
It's
I-
probably
would tell you-
by far my favorite design.
That new suit was better than any of the designs. The Wakanda design, the start of the show
I was
design.
gonna say they. I like that the suits are finally getting less bulky. She looks almost like a mini Hulkbuster for most of her appearances, and I'm kind of glad that we're finally getting to a little bit of a slimmer suit because the Hulkbuster-esque giant mech suit design really only worked for Rhodey, and I just don't want her to get lost in the shuffle.
To be fair, she's a tiny person to
Oh,
begin
yeah.
with. She is a little person to begin with. So she might need a little bulk to be scary. Like, I'm not sure if I'm scared of a GoBot versus a Transformer.
I mean, in canon,
He gets it. He gets it.
No, I got it. But I mean, in canon, her suit is not very big.
It kind of doesn't make sense that her suit would have to be so bulky when Pepper's suit rescue is sleek.
I do think there is a thing going on where they're trying to really hard to differentiate the armors. Like, I don't think they want her to look like Rescue, so people get confused, and I don't think they want her to look exactly like War Machine, so they don't get confused. I think they're just trying to make her stand out.
Nevertheless, an iron suit's going to be an iron suit.
I'm about to say though, yeah. Eventually, it's going to look the same regardless.
Because honestly, now that I think about it, the bulkiness of the suits that she's wearing almost kind of reminds me of how bulky a couple of Tony's suits were. One of them being the like the drilling one or something, like the construction suit.
Honestly, I mean, the construction suit needed to be.
Well, yeah.
Honestly, every suit she's had has almost looked like a cross between Rescue and War Machine. No, not necessarily.
That's fair. No, you're right. That's fair. Because Hulkbuster actually looks more like a robot version of that X-Men guy. Juggernaut.
Oh.
Hulkbuster looks like a
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
What do you mean?
Dude, have you not seen Apocalypse? He's a bulky. Oh, you're talking about movie Apocalypse. No, that's not the same.
No, I'm not. Yeah, but I'm talking about. I was talking about Juggernaut. It looks like a robot suit of Juggernaut.
Yeah, that's fair. No, Apocalypse in the comics is a lot bulkier though.
Yeah,
he's
so. Not to cut you, but you're seeing right now the scene of her fighting John. At Heirloom. And this is where this was one thing that, like, her bulky suits make sense to me because that would kind of allow her the fight.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I'm buying that tiny little RiRi right here is fighting off 6'2", 195-pound John carrying a knife.
Yeah.
There's nothing behind that.
I mean, she does have some fighting skills, but
she's not a fighter. She wasn't a fighter in Wakanda Forever. She's not a fighter.
Okay. See, that distinction at the end makes more sense because I thought you were just going to talk about her frame because it's like, if you're going to make that excuse, we're watching Iron Fist right now, and Colleen Wing is skinny
but Colleen
and
is
tiny.
And you can be if you're a trained fighter.
Yeah, okay. See,
but RiRi's not a trained fighter, so you want to tell me that she fights off John, but she's never been a trained fighter?
No, that's fair. That's fair. If you hadn't said trained fighter, I was about to be like, whoa.
But at least these bulky suits with all the extra gizmos to them make a little bit of sense. But her just fighting off John right there, she's dead meat. I'm sorry,
that's fair.
She's dead meat.
No, that's fair.
And even these guys, we watched the twins fight in a fight club, and RiRi's never trained to fight, and yet she manages to fight them. And I get some of it. Some of it is right because she grabs the stuff and tries to make kind of like trap bomb type stuff.
She never actually fights, and this is
she does too.
She punches.
She throws a straight up punch. And she survived that kick. Come on.
Why wouldn't she? It was just a kick to the stomach that knocked her back. It's
kicking someone who does not fight, who's not trained.
She
took it like she was a professional fighter.
I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you because you can't do that because Iron Man 3, Tony does the same exact thing. Not joking. Creating gadgets to fight people.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect because the difference between Tony and RiRi is RiRi doesn't have the time to, but billionaire Tony, think about it. Who have you not heard recently about Mark Zuckerberg?
Yes, I've heard about Mark Zuckerberg. I know he's doing boxing training.
He's doing BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and fighting people, and he wears a hood and stuff, so you don't know you're fighting him until you fight him.
Yep.
These rich guys have that time. They are trained to fight. Tony is trained to fight.
Here's the part but
RiRi is not.
It's not about trained to fight necessarily because while she does have a smaller frame, she is not weak.
I'm not saying she's weak. I'm saying she's taking
yes, you could take.
She's taking a fight like she's a fighter.
You can take a punch. She's not fighting. That's the thing you're missing. She's doing a lot of misdirection and trying to get away from him. She does throw a punch, but she gets punished for it immediately.
No, you're right, but she doesn't. But that punishment
what I'm
doesn't
saying
last.
is that what her being able to take it is from having the stamina and the strength to wear those armors.
Okay,
Do you know
no,
how
that's
heavy?
fair. No, that's fair. I will accept that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those armors are not
That-
light.
I will accept that walking around, and granted that they help walk around,
Yes.
but it would take some strength to wear and command that suit. You're right.
Yeah.
No, that's 100% fair.
It's the strength and stamina that's allowing her to stay in those fights, but she's not fighting.
But there's no reason
And
she
she's
should
getting
get tossed
punished.
around a room with no armor on and still be standing. Like, she should be down.
No, I disagree because they didn't do enough damage. The only time I feel like it would be is if that grenade had gone off right next to her. Then
What-
I feel like she wouldn't be walking away.
One more fight scene thing that I'm not disappointed in, but I am kind of disappointed. What is the thing that we've noticed about Tony Stark in every movie? His armor always improves and he learns from,
Sure.
Yeah.
right? What we noticed about RiRi, which just showed up right there with Zeke, she didn't learn.
Well,
So in her previous armor, he electrocutes her basically, and then he lets her go.
I think the dumb part. Well, I think,
And then the next armor, she doesn't prepare for that. She
Actually-
takes that same electric shock again.
but here's I don't.
Well, I think she was mainly preparing for Parker.
I was gonna say I don't think in this instance I think she was so focused and obsessed on fighting Parker. She didn't think about implementing the electronics. So she didn't really know or even think. It's like even in the moment she's like she finally figures out how to take him down, take down Zeke. But it's in the moment. Like I
yeah,
don't think
but
she
I'm
was
saying
really thinking about it.
Tony didn't let the moment pass.
She's not Tony.
Right. No,
Yeah.
exactly. But that's a place where I was disappointed. Like, you're a genius. You're a
Well, see, and that's
genius.
something I
Also a
mentioned
kid.
to Cam as well. Is like I would have thought after the first time that she fought Zeke, she would have immediately implemented something to
Grounding.
combat-
Some kind of
Yeah.
grounding in her suit so
Or
that he wouldn't be able
something
to do that again.
Absorb it into like
reason-
power reserves.
Like Thor.
Yeah.
Like with the hammer.
But
Yeah.
also
Yes.
he had years to he didn't even develop that until Infinity War Endgame.
No, I hear you. I'm
It
just
took him
saying.
years.
I'm just
also
saying, if you're looking at her, you would expect her to try something, even if she goes, "Well, that didn't work."
well, that's fine, but she's
You would've-
also, and I know
She
she's
tried
not a
nothing.
kid, but she's still a kid. She's not,
That's
Tony
fair.
with a 45-year-old adult brain that's like
No,
had
she's
time to
Peter
think.
with a.
She's like
with almost the
20,
same-
20 something, and she's still learning. Like,
Well,
it's
so my point is, if she shows up again, she better account for electronic
no,
for electric shock in her next suit, or else.
that's fair. Although I will say, her having such advanced tech to be able to do the Mark 42 armor thing.
Oh yeah.
As her third iteration suit that she's created.
No, but we've talked about that.
I know we did.
There should be bigger jumps for her than jumps for Tony, because she has the exposure to what Tony's done in the past. She's not having to come
Yeah,
up
but
like Tony had to come up with the
Cam
idea.
also made a good point when we've talked about this before, where
Wait.
she wouldn't have really all the access to all of the.
Oh yeah. Well, she wouldn't have access to all the patents and stuff. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Yes, she would.
No,
you
she
can
would.
get in the U.S. Patent Office right now and look up any patent you want. You
They
can
can
look up
still-
all the patents he
They-
had on
they
his
can
Iron Man suits.
deny you access to certain patents.
They don't
though.
know. They deny you the ability to build them, but you can see all the patents.
I mean, that's. I guess
You
it's
can see
fair.
them all. But
Okay.
but she should make the bigger jumps, because Tony had to come up with the idea.
Yeah.
One, she didn't have to come up with the idea, and two, she got a whole bunch of ideas from Zeke. She admitted, she was like, "Oh, he came up with all these ideas. Some of them are dumb, but some of them are actually really good."
Yeah.
Well, and this show also takes place within a week. I want to say
That's fair.
It's not a whole lot of time. Like at least Iron Fist right
Well,
now.
I mean,
there's
is it a week?
It's
Because
rough.
really, she had to tear that car apart, melt it down in a garage.
See,
She didn't have the
but
tools actually to
they
make
show
those.
you the days. Like it's like 3 or 4 days for the whole armor to be built.
I feel like that
it's
would
a-
have taken longer
It
to
was a
strip down a
I
car.
get it, but it was a montage.
and plus, you can
of-
see her struggling a lot, especially with the power from the car batteries.
But you have to pay attention to Zeke and Parker for the timeline
And al-
because
and
not
al-
a lot of time is passing there.
And also, I disagree that it happened in a week for this reason as well. Also, those jobs that he sets up, they don't necessarily happen next day. They happen next day for us as the viewer because they're not going to show us 3 weeks between jobs.
Okay, but canonically, from what we saw, the way they described it, it was about a week or two. It wasn't very
can't
long.
be.
It physically in real life, you're correct, but in this universe, it takes place within a week or two. I don't make the rules on that. It's not like I'm the one saying that. That's just the way the show presents it. That's how they show time. I mean, Daredevil's the same way. I don't think Daredevil is realistic in season 2 with the Punisher trial, but they expedite that trial and they make it take place right after he gets arrested. That is said in the show. That would never happen in real life.
Well, you are granted, or you do have the right to a speedy trial. How
You do
long
have a-
that trial takes?
I was going to say, they made it take place in 2 days. There's no way that's happening.
Yeah.
That's what
He
I'm
can
saying.
go to, but I'm saying he could go to trial quickly.
No, but
it's just how long does it take to actually make that trial happen? Again, they can make the thefts that they're trying to pull off happen,
yeah.
but the planning and stuff would take weeks. It
No,
wouldn't
yeah,
take
that's
minutes.
what I was
Oh,
saying.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And honestly, it does scream of not careful planning, though. Like, he does go to Heirloom after being told, look, we kind of barely thought this through already, and it was already sketchy as is. And now you want to rush into it. So
That's fair.
It taking place within a week or two isn't really that far off. And again, they're all roughly the same age. They're still technically kids, even if they're not. So they're all pretty idiotic sometimes.
I mean that's fair. There is some.
So I know I don't
sorry.
want to make too many excuses for a show. Like I don't like doing that, but
Yeah.
there is things in here that make it plausible for why things happen. I wish it was stated more clearly sometimes, or like shown a little more in depth. But you only get 6 episodes, and they wasted they wasted some time on certain things that didn't need to be wasted time on.
Yeah. I will
Yeah.
say what was what was the chick's name that was helping RiRi with the
Zelma?
spells and whatnot? Huh?
Zelma.
Yeah. I feel like her mom knew it was Mephisto, and that's why she wasn't saying anything. And then she's like, "Oh no, it's Dormammu."
The
It's like,
parents in the show
okay.
are awful. The mom is barely attentive, and then like she sees her daughter's best friend come back to life, and her reaction is like, "Oh, cool! Can
Yeah.
you bring back my ex?" And
I mean the whole thing, and this is kind of true in comics. It's really true in TV, and particularly Disney TV, is to make parents stupid and always make the kids smarter. Go back and look at every Disney show.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Well,
farther
except for-
farther back than Hannah Montana, you can go back in Disney shows, and the parents never
I was
are
gonna say
good
there
parents.
are some like for instance like Good Luck Charlie did a pretty good job with the parents actually.
It's rare
But
on
it's
it's
rare.
rare on
It's
a
very
Disney
rare.
related show that a parent is competent in any way.
Yeah, the other mom being like, "Oh, this is dangerous. You shouldn't do anything about it." Well, what's the alternative? She's gonna die.
Right.
Yeah.
And you actually have some magical ability that could be helpful to keep her from dying quickly. Like what?
I don't know.
Complete incompetence on
I
that
don't know.
in that
And
part.
in fact, actually, she even mentions that she knows Stephen Strange. So, like, why isn't she contacting him? Like, oh,
I
by the
feel
way,
because
the
we
Devil's
can't
here.
cross over Marvel projects unless it's a major movie.
I feel like Strange could have helped out in
Well,
that
that's the same.
situation.
Should have,
Yeah.
would have.
It would have been
Yeah.
the same excuse they used for WandaVision, where it's like, we didn't want him to steal the show, so
Oh,
we cut him
yeah.
out. It was just not going to. Same thing with Shuri. Like, we don't want Shuri. They actually used that
Well-
same excuse for Luke Cage, too. They were like, we don't want Jessica Jones to appear in Luke Cage's show. We don't want
Well,
Danny Rand to appear in Luke Cage's show.
To be
even
fair,
though they did.
well, to be fair, this show obviously had a future.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if you
Yeah.
bring Doctor Strange in and Mephisto's the end game of this particular season,
yeah.
you don't have that future of obvious RiRi's choice.
Yep.
Because RiRi making the choice that she made, I mean, the entire time she's about to make it, the entire conversation, and it keeps flashing forward. And you
Yeah.
don't realize it's a flash forward, which, at least in my case, I thought this is RiRi trying to think it through.
I predicted it.
Well, I was sitting there going, RiRi's trying to think it through. Like
Yeah.
what if I got him to bring her back?
just
But then it's not just her thinking it through. Like, it is actually her bringing her friend back to life. You don't have that, obviously, if Steven
Yeah.
comes in and intervenes. So
So do we know what the full extent of the deal is?
we never hear the full extent of the deal. I think that would be safe for an Ironheart season 2, which I'm not sure
I'm
that
not
we're
sure
gonna
if they're
get.
going to,
We're probably
considering
most
that
likely
they
not.
sat
But-
on this for like 3 years.
The thing is, though, that it's gotten since the review bombs have been removed,
Yeah.
the reviews are actually really good, and we're one of them. Like I would give this a great review, minus episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
and parts of episode 4. I think
And
those were the
2.
2 weakest.
parts of episode 2 were
I
pretty
mean,
weak too.
but 2, by the time you get to the end of 2, it's a strong episode.
That's fair.
It starts out not,
Wait.
but
Well, yeah.
this show builds from episode 1. It actually gets good, and then they took that break, and episode 4 is like starting over with episode 1, and it builds to episode 6. But overall, it's a really good show. I would be happy to see a season 2.
I would be too. I was gonna say though, just before we started episode 6 is like, what if they'd like got rid of her AI just so that Mephisto would bring back the real version of her? I'm like, that'd be
mean-
so dark, and I don't think they'd make that turn. And then they did it. It was like,
Yeah.
it was
But
like,
see, I wouldn't think with how smart Shuri is, I wouldn't think she would have been a person to make
You
a
mean
deal
Riri?
with
well,
Mephisto.
okay, so
Or,
that's
yeah,
actually
Riri.
that's been explained a bit. Parker gets manipulated into it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
he,
sure.
he manipulates her to doing it too. That's why you see not the flash forward, but you see the memories of
Yeah.
Natalie.
Yeah.
He is absolutely 100% manipulating her with food, with the conversation, with
The whole thing's
Yeah.
a manipulation.
Oh, yeah.
The entire time.
It wasn't a choice. And by the end of that conversation, it's always ending with nothing that you'll care to lose. Like it's,
Nothing. It's your soul.
Yeah.
It's nothing
Yeah.
you're gonna miss. Is what he says. Nothing you're gonna miss.
Nothing you're gonna miss is like you don't worry about it. But he's done all the legwork to get to nothing you're gonna miss. So at that point, she's like really considering it because everything's been laid out on the table and it's sounding like a really good deal. And if it's really nothing I'm gonna miss, then yeah, I'd probably take it too.
Wait,
But
so
I
did
feel
she-
like
does
Parker
she-
knew.
Did she keep the
Well,
cape
Parker
though?
was
Or the
all,
hood?
huh?
Did she keep the hood?
Yes, it's on the armor in the background. Yeah, she took the hood.
Yikes.
Yeah, if you
I think Parker knew, and I think she knows what she gave up. We just don't, as the audience, know what she gave up. I don't
Yeah.
think she walked away from that conversation not knowing what's
well, no,
going to be
I
taken
absolutely
from
think
her.
they knew, but I think that it was more like if I get
Think-
this AI back.
Well, think about the Peter Parker story with Mephisto. He knew what he was giving up.
I don't like that one.
But I'm
because-
just saying, no, that's not the point, whether you like it or not. The point is, Mephisto didn't make the deal, and Peter was like, well, I don't know that I'm giving up my whole life and Mary Jane and to get Aunt May
it
back.
was just his marriage.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not like he didn't know and suddenly he wasn't married anymore. He knew what he was giving up to get
Well,
Aunt May back.
yes.
I don't think that RiRi doesn't know what she's giving up.
But he wasn't.
I think we just don't get to see it.
No, that's fair. But she. Well, it is
and
her
that-
soul. I think that
if-
it's corrupting her soul is what that scarring is.
Yeah, if there's a season 2, which I'm not counting on at this point, but if there is, I think we find out that she thinks that she can handle it or find a way to deal back and get what she's losing back. I think she thinks she's so smart she'll figure out a way to have both Natalie and whatever she lost at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I hate that they're speed running to Secret Wars and putting so many projects on hold for Secret Wars.
I feel like
Well, I was
season
about
2
to
of this
say,
should come before
so
Secret Wars.
I feel like
would season 2 be her dealing with Zeke, or would that happen?
No, Zeke was supposed to move on. Zeke was supposed.
well, not the way the show ended.
The show ended.
He
with
said
him-
our dealings are not done here.
No, I know, but in what they were talking about, Zeke was supposed to move on to the leader. He was
Oh,
supposed to
yeah.
work with the leader to develop tech for the Serpent's
Yeah.
Escape.
Well, at this point, he could have popped up in Armor Wars.
Probably, but I mean,
He could have been the bad guy
the
of
way,
Armor Wars.
The way that it was laid out, with the way that it's been laid out for the direction the stuff was supposed to happen after the show, Zeke was supposed to move on to Brave
Sure,
New Worlds,
sure.
and Shuri and War Machine were supposed to do their own thing. And at that point,
RiRi.
You did
You-
the
you
same
both
thing
did
I
it.
did.
Yeah. RiRi and Rhodey were supposed to do their own thing. And then,
Yeah.
even then, that was actually in development as a TV show at first before it was being.
Well, it was a movie, and then it was a TV show.
I heard it the other way around, was that it was supposed to be a TV show, and then they cut it to a movie after Secret Invasion, and then they decided to cut it completely.
No, I don't. Not the way I heard it. It
That's
was a
the-
movie, and then it was a TV show, and then it was a movie again.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, so then it started out as a movie, went to a TV show, went to a movie.
yeah,
and
because
they
everybody
canned
made a big deal
It
that Don
seems
Cheadle
like
was going to
with-
get his own movie,
I think.
and then
Seems
they
like
changed it to a show,
really-
and people were like, "Oh, he doesn't get a movie because he's black."
Well, people are.
But people lost excitement over the whole armor thing when Tony died. So
I was to say, I think people are like, I want to see Armor Wars now, but it's like, I think that's over. I think that ship sailed because they've already muddied the waters with Don Cheadle's backstory by that scroll.
the whole Secret Invasion, which I actually liked the show.
I like part of it.
There
I
were
don't
things
like all
about
of it.
Secret Invasion that I liked, but I think you're right. Whenever they turned him into how long has he been a scroll? That's like, oh, that's
Yeah, they muddied the waters too much.
Ugh.
So it's like, I don't know where you would even place that at this point. Is he a scroll in Armor Wars? Is it actually Rhodey? Are they going to deal with Secret Wars? Secret Wars.
if they
Or Secret
ignored
Invasion? Fuck.
if they ignore Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Honestly, if they ignored Secret Invasion like it never happened, and they brought Zeke in and made him a foil for Rhodey, and she is the person who knows about Zeke, so she can help Rhodey, that could make a cool Armor Wars script and show.
See, that's another thing, because Armor Wars is also like, is it a follow up to Secret Invasion, which at one point it was
Supposed to be.
and then at another point it was going to be.
They've already ignored Secret Invasion.
Daredevil deals with it.
Does it?
Lightly.
Because
So-
Brave New World.
So
There's a whole new president.
yeah, let's go into.
Oh, we don't have to go into that right now. We can.
But
do an
no, that's
episode
fine.
on it.
Because I'm gonna say they did not necessarily fully ignore it. So people know about scrolls now, but as far as like the scroll war on Earth, it just
never happened.
it just never, like, it happened off screen if it happened, and if it didn't, it's
I feel like the Super Scroll.
if anything, it's probably going to be a background thing until they actually find a way to deal with it.
I feel like the Super
feel like
Scroll is going to
they've
be told.
held
It's
off
going to be
onto
like
it for
she
too
took them
long.
off planet.
They've held off on a lot of things for too long, honestly.
No, I'm
And
saying,
now
I
that
think
we're
they'll
already
use her to take
approaching-
them off planet so that it doesn't have to be dealt
don't-
with. It's
I-
too far. It's too far gone.
I think that they're just going to leave it be, because if they were really going to deal with it, the Marvels would have been the place to deal with it and have the Kree and the Skrulls fight.
Yeah,
each
and
other
in the
again.
Marvels, they're still trying to get the scrolls off planet.
They don't
that's-
even
that's what I'm saying.
know. They don't reference the Skrulls at all. They just completely ignore it.
I mean, Nick is with them, still trying to find them. She was still trying to find them a home.
In Secret Invasion.
No,
Yeah.
Captain Marvel.
Yes, Captain Marvel
Was-
to Secret Invasion. They were trying to find him a home.
Right.
In Secret Invasion, they confirmed they're not trying to find him a home anymore. They're just starting a war, and then the Marvels just doesn't even deal with it. They're just like,
That's
Whatever.
the whole purpose. She's off planet. She's not on the planet because
yeah,
she's
no,
trying
that
to find
changed. In game, the reason she's off planet is for a completely different reason now. It's not the same.
them. Okay.
Yeah, they dropped the scrolls completely. They're done with it.
Good lord.
Yeah, I know. That's like it's a messy thing.
Then why dump so much money into a show that they're really just going to ignore at this
It's not
point?
Marvel's fault. Disney was launching Disney Plus, and then they went to Marvel and Star Wars and said, "We need you to develop as many projects to get this off the ground." And so they went in developing like 20 to 50 TV shows, specials, movies, anything to get Disney Plus off the ground.
Well,
Oh,
I think
Jesus.
Bob Iger was really pushed, or was it Chapek? Was it Iger or Chapek?
I don't know.
It was one of the two. And they were like,
make sure you say allegedly.
allegedly, one of the Bobs was trying to really push Disney Plus, so they went and spent a ton of money on projects you'll probably never see.
Well, all that to say, I think there's a story there involving Zeke, involving War Machine and RiRi if they wanted to follow up on it. I don't think they're going to, but maybe with all the review bombs being removed and actually having reviews
Yeah.
and seeing that it's in the 80s now,
Wait,
Um,
what?
I think
Oh, 80%.
80% on the reviews. Maybe they come back to it at some point. Unfortunately, I don't think
I
Secret
would like
Wars
to
leaves
see
a lot
the
of room for it.
So
Mephisto
that's
thing play
actually
out.
I would too.
See, I feel like Secret Wars is going to be back into the same corner that Crisis on Infinite Earths was, where they plan so far ahead of it that it's going to be disappointing, where it's going to be like they have to end it in a way where it allows all the other stuff they've been working on to stay canon. So it's not going to be this big thing that ends in a satisfying... It's not going to be the wrap-up of a giant multi-saga or multi-episode saga. You know?
No, I feel like the mistake they're making at this point is that they're not gonna blip this thing out and start from scratch. I don't think they're going to because there's too much planned.
Yeah.
And you don't go back and recast the Fantastic Four after their first movie because then it's like doing it all over again.
Yeah.
It's
And
the
some
same,
of the-
well, that's how we discussed with Chadwick Boseman is like that's too much has happened that if you recast Chadwick Boseman in that movie, the audience is going to have to grapple with a new Black Panther, even though, and so they made the safer choice, but it's like at the same time, you got rid of T'Challa and it feels weird now. So
It's way too early.
it's the same thing with Secret War. I feel like we're gonna get recasts.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Iron Man. You were like, they never should have killed him off.
They
Well,
shouldn't have.
now they have. And so if we have barely spent time, I feel like, without Tony, that if they bring him back after Secret Wars with a brand new actor and they're trying to keep all these other plot lines going, it's gonna be weird.
Well, but it could have worked if they didn't use Robert Downey Jr. to come in as Dr. Doom, who is, by the way, a variant of Tony. I know they're kind of saying he is and he's not. Nobody really knows. But the Russo brothers said Robert Downey Jr. is the only person who could play Doom because of what we're doing with Doom, which basically tells you he's a variant of Tony, and you couldn't have brought someone else in to be Tony.
I was gonna say because they're saying it's Victor Von Doom.
Yeah,
They've already said that his name is going to be Victor Von Doom.
But it couldn't be.
It couldn't be.
It couldn't be that Robert Downey Jr. is the only person who could do this unless he's a variant of Tony.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, because of that, you're right. I agree. You bring in somebody else's Iron Man, which I hear they're trying to do with Tom Cruise
That for Secret Wars.
for Secret Wars.
Oh yeah.
They haven't said
Even that is still gonna that's gonna be a one-time thing.
Yeah,
It's not like he's gonna be the going forward Tony Stark.
Keep Tony dead, or are they gonna bring him back? And actually, what are the implications? It's kind of like
I don't think Robert Downey Jr. wants to do 10 more years of Tony Stark.
me
Though.
and you-
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
For me and you, you'll get this, but it's like when Sam Witwer was asked to come back for Solo, and he was like, "We want you to play Darth Maul," and he's like, "Well, you have two options here for the lightsaber. You either have this lightsaber or this lightsaber. You have the dark saber, or you have his lightsaber from Rebels. And if you have if you have the Rebels one, it means this, this, and this, and you have the other one, it means this, this, and this. I feel like that's where we're at with Iron Man. Is like you recast him, bring it back, and then you have very limited options of what you're going to do with him, even if it's Robert Downey Jr. or even if it's a full recast. Or if you leave him dead, these are your two options. Like these are your few options because there's not a lot of places to go if you bring Tony back. They've done way too much with the character, but also not enough.
There's a ton of stories they didn't tell,
but
that they basically said we can never tell these stories now because of how we did it.
Exactly. If they bring him back,
you still can't tell those stories.
You can't tell those stories because you have to start over.
Right.
But you can't start over because if you start over, then people are gonna be like, "Why are we doing this again?"
Right.
Yep.
Right. So,
so
it's just kind of a mess where if you're going to reboot the thing, you've got to reboot the whole thing, but you've got too many forward-looking projects, like you said, where you can't reboot the whole thing because of your forward-looking projects.
Right. Daredevil is planned to go. I mean,
no, Vincent D'Onofrio came out this week and said season 2 is the end of Daredevil.
Daredevil, the property is not the property might be done. The character is not. They said they have plans for Daredevil.
He'll cross over, but he won't have another show.
They have plans for Daredevil. They have plans for all the Netflix characters already.
Yeah, well,
they're bringing back every single one, and they plan to keep him going for years.
But it's not a Daredevil show. He'll be a crossover character. D'Onofrio said season 2 is the end of Daredevil.
That's fine, and I get that. But I'm just saying, like the point
he can show up in Spider-Man. He can show up in Jessica Jones, Luke Cage. They could do a Defenders thing, but there's not another Daredevil.
No, I get what you're saying, but
They should do another Defenders.
They
arc.
should just actually. I was going to get into that in Iron Fist, where it's like the shows feel like they should have just been consultants for the police department.
Well, and here's what I really think. Along the lines of what we talked about with the Arrowverse, the Defenders could be a show that
absolutely.
contains both solo stories of the characters, crossover stories of Heroes for Hire or Daughters of the Dragon or whatever. All not that you would have a Daughters of the Dragon series, but you might have an arc within Defenders that is
Justice
Daughters
League
of
Unlimited.
Yes,
Where
Justice
it's
League
like
Unlimited.
Green Arrow can be the star of the episode for a bit, or
A couple of
Superman
arcs,
can be
like
the
a
star.
three episode arc.
Yeah,
But the whole thing
what
is
Legends
Defenders.
should have been.
Yes, what Legends should have been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And actually, it felt like Legends was going that direction until they completely decided not to do that.
Yeah, they could do that with Defenders, and that would actually be cool because you could have a solo Daredevil story, but you could cross over someone at any time because it's really a Defenders show.
And they could even get they could go to Sony and be like, we want to use a Spider-Man for a single episode or two, and they could just.
I mean, they could just work that into contracts.
Yeah,
like we're gonna use them here because we're gonna make your movie, and you're gonna make billions off of it.
The same thing they did with the X-Men back in the day, where like we'll take Wanda Maximoff and Pedro, and you guys can take whatever. I think they sold Fox the TV rights of X-Men, the live action TV rights for X-Men. I don't remember what the deal was, but they made a deal to get those characters to appear so that it was like.
I didn't think that was the case.
Yeah.
They had a pretty strong case that Wanda was a member of the Avengers at one point.
They made a
and
deal,
so they
though.
didn't have to.
They could. The deal was that they couldn't use the word mutant in.
That's
the
what it
Avengers.
was.
They did work out a deal between them.
They had to stay away from the word
lawyers.
mutant.
They had to get lawyers involved for it because they were like, we need this, this, and this. And
She's
they're
like, she
"That's
was
fine."
an Avenger. We're allowed to use her, but we
But
can't use the word mutant when we do it. We
the
have to come up with a different origin for her
The
powers.
unfortunate side effect of that is that when the comics at the time, they went back and rewrote their origin story,
Yeah.
and that was pretty frustrating because they'd already been canonically the daughter and son of Magneto, but now they're adopted children that got taken to space and experimented on and then brought back to Earth, and it's like, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't
All
like that.
Yeah.
All that to say, back to Ironheart though, I felt like this was a great show.
Oh yeah, it definitely.
I
was.
really loved the Parker character. He seemed pretty complex. As a character, he wasn't just one dimensional. So I think they did a good job with him. A lot of times you get a guy and you're just like, okay, kill him off and be done with him, please.
Yeah.
But Parker was actually pretty cool, and the story with his dad was interesting.
Oh yeah.
Like you wondered his motivation the whole time.
I guessed it at one point. I was like, "Is this like?"
Of course you did.
Oh, I did.
You always do.
Well, but some of these plots are getting really freaking predictable.
Yeah.
Well,
how
you
many
also
other
can't
plots
stay off
involve
the
the dad?
internet
Like that?
either.
That's probably more of it than anything.
What?
You can't stay off the internet than spoilers.
No, I didn't look up spoilers for the show. We watched it when it came out. Well, we watched it a day after it came out, but I didn't look up for spoilers or anything.
Either way,
But I mean, it started to make sense.
I felt
'cause
like it
of
was
the way-
pretty original.
I don't.
I felt like it was pretty original for Marvel.
I feel like it's an original way of adapting stuff they've already done before, but I don't think it's original.
Where did they do this in the MCU?
I'm not even just talking about
But I'm talking about the MCU.
I'm talking about overall.
For MCU villains, the way they handled him was more of an original story. It wasn't the same thing we've
Okay,
seen across
all right.
multiple movies. What is Marvel most criticized for?
What?
Remaking the same thing over and over and over
You
again
know
and just
what?
changing the
It
characters.
It wasn't world domination. I'll give you that.
It
We
wasn't-
don't know.
It wasn't world domination because all he wanted was to get back at his dad. Then Mephisto's like, well, I mean, they basically said, this isn't going to be enough for you. You think it's going to be enough, but it's not. And it turned out it was right. Like he
Yeah.
got everything he wanted, and then he wanted more. But it wasn't world domination, and the fate of the universe wasn't ever at stake.
Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. I just mean from watching several other TV shows and like having a history of stuff, just gets easier to predict the plot lines
Like-
because they can only do so much with a character that's different from another character
Even the father storylines, though, what do we have? We have Peter Quill,
who's evil and
but the father
rejected
story.
his son.
But the father storyline there is not the same.
It's
He
not
didn't.
the s-
No, he
that's
didn't
not-
reject his. He didn't reject his son. Remember, he came for Peter.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's different. It's just different. It was kind of fresh for Marvel. Not that nobody has ever told this story, but for Marvel, this was more of a fresh story.
No, I know, but I mean, you're talking in question of me guessing the shows. I'm saying it for me. It's just that there's been so many different things across my viewing history and reading history. It just becomes easier to predict the plots of some of these shows when you get further into them because things become more obvious the closer you get to the finale.
Well,
Like, it's
I thought
just-
I thought it was well done.
I'm not saying it's not well done. I think it's fine. I'm saying it's easier to guess. I'm not.
And then for him to lose everything, not because she beat him.
Yep.
I mean, she did beat him.
Well, yeah.
But not because she beat him, but because Mephisto was like, okay, I'll give you more, but you've got to win. Not she didn't beat him and stop him. He lost, and so Mephisto took his power.
Definitely.
You know what? Different than every time the hero beats the villain,
Yeah.
right?
Death Note.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying it's been done. I'm not
saying for
criticizing.
Marvel, like you can't get out of this non-Marvel thing for some reason. I'm saying for Marvel, this
And
was a
I
different.
get what you're saying, but I'm
it's
just
a
saying
different
for
story.
me, I've seen enough stories to know where some of this stuff is going.
So-
That's not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing.
It just was fresh for Marvel to do something a little bit outside the box.
Fair enough.
You know, granted, it was in Death Note. Granted, there are other daddy stories out there, but this was different from Marvel. So
Yeah. No, it's fine. Yeah, and then I mean, it's also hard not to compare her to Iron Man, though. In some
Yeah.
instances, I do think people are not making sense on the whole. Because I did have this thought for a minute with because people are like pulling the Tony Stark built this in a cave with box of scraps, and for a minute I was like, well, technically the box of scraps were Stark technology.
Stark
They
Tech
were
missile
Jericho
parts and
missiles.
stuff.
But he didn't have all the tools to put it together. He actually did have to make some of his tools to do that.
But that brings up a good point, though. Something that we I don't think have talked about is that question comes up: would Tony Stark be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
He would be.
And the answer is yes. Why is the answer yes to you?
Because I've read the comics where he's had several stories where he loses his money, he loses his company. Even in the Avengers video game, like he loses his company, still builds Iron Man suits.
Okay.
Like, he's done it before. He's still a genius.
Would he be Tony Stark without the billions?
I'm not sure.
I'll tell you why I think yes. And it's an MCU reference,
go
completely
for it.
MCU reference. Iron Man 3. He lands in Tennessee. The suit's damaged. It's lost. He's got to fight all of those. He's got to fight the extremist soldiers.
Yeah.
He goes to a hardware store.
I think what people mean is would Iron Man be Iron Man and Iron Man 1 without his billion?
But I know, but what I'm saying is I think he would.
I do too. He has the
Because
capacity for
he
knowledge.
goes to the hardware store, gets all the things he needs to fight
Yeah.
without a suit.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't need the suit to fight and be a hero.
He didn't need his billions.
He
to
didn't
gain
need
his-
billions to do
gain his
that.
He didn't need his billions to gain his knowledge.
Right.
People want to learn if they want to learn. So he would have eventually done it anyway.
He's a genius.
He just probably would have done it more like her, and not like
He would have gone to
did.
MIT and been in debt instead of going to MIT for free.
Yeah, with his dad's name.
With his
and-
dad's
yeah,
money and his
yeah.
dad's name, but he's still a genius either way. And he
Yeah.
proves it when he fights the extremist soldiers with hardware from Lowe's.
I don't think that should
Or
bring,
Home Depot or
that
whatever.
shouldn't bring her down as a character.
No,
either, though,
not at
'cause
all.
She's still a genius as well. Like
She built her latest suit out of a car.
out of a car, and it's and
Out of an old car, out of a combustion engine.
and combined it with magic, which is something Tony never did.
Well, because Tony's thought was magic is science that we just don't understand yet.
Well,
I
so
mean,
does
he
she.
literally says that, but that's not. It's obviously magic here, not science. we don't
but I
understand
mean,
yet.
he never went to Doctor Strange and said, "Infuse my armor."
No, right, right.
So she made that with magic in mind, and I think that's pretty sick. I do like that we're starting to see techno sorcery in the MCU because that is a fun.
Well, I think
gimmick.
you have to for Doctor Doom, right?
Oh,
So the
yeah.
question is, you've got Doctor Doom coming, which is techno sorcery and everything.
yeah.
Does RiRi, who's not cast for Doomsday, show up in Doomsday?
I think she
since
does.
she's the only person
I-
who's dealt with techno sorcery in the MCU,
There's a what,
I
she
don't-
has to, right?
there's like
I
20 to
wouldn't-
50 characters
I don't
not
think
listed,
she
right?
would unless she takes care of Zeke before Doomsday.
But I don't.
That-
I mean,
they
I think
don't
that's just
need-
going to be ignored.
Yeah. I
Uh,
don't-
implied.
Same thing with
off-screen.
Mordo. is that Baron Mordo?
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be the same thing. Where
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
That's actually something someone brought up though. Is like there's still wizards and sorcerers, and Mordo is it like puts an emphasis on like where's Mordo? Like he was supposed to be killing all these people,
Yeah.
and he killed one person and disappeared. Like
Yeah.
where is this dude? Why is Zelma able to
Another
exist?
lost plot line.
Yeah, it's like maybe that'll come up soon.
Another lost plot line completely.
Actually, you know what? I get why. No, wait. Yeah, actually, Strange wouldn't be a part of the story. I was just thinking about this. He's currently in the Dark Dimension with Clea.
You mean the dark dimension where the Red Hood is pulling power from?
No,
right
he's
now?
not pouring the. He's pulling it from a different dimension. Mephisto is not based out of the Dark Dimension. They got that.
They flat out.
The whole, no, that was wrong. The whole point was to be misdirection. It's not actually coming out of the Dark Dimension.
They were trying to say it was from Dormammu.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
They said flat out this
she
is
literally
pulling
said,
from the dark
no,
dimension.
She said that she got it wrong.
Okay.
She was like, I'm 45% sure, and then she kept getting lower and lower.
And then Mephisto just craps on Dormammu.
Yeah, because he was
Yeah.
like, I can't believe you said Dormammu. Yeah, it's not from the Dark Dimension. You have to. I don't remember where Mephisto is from, but it's not the Dark Dimension.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
They're in the Dark Dimension dealing with an incursion, I guess.
An incursion.
Another one?
Incursions.
Yeah, did you not watch
That's-
Multiverse of Madness? That's what happens at the end. She's like, Doctor Strange, there's an incursion. I need you to come with me. And he's
Clea.
like, Clea does that. And then she drags him through the portal and they fly
And his
out.
third eye pops up on his
Oh,
forehead.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember.
They're in the Dark Dimension.
And
dude.
because
I
he's touched the
really
dark
did
hold, he's a
not-
bad guy now.
It's so stupid because Doctor Strange 3 is now pushed back after Secret Wars.
It makes
Oh,
no sense.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna have a Black Widow type of thing here, where
Flashbacks to the incursion.
well, no, we're gonna have a Black Widow type of thing where the final story happens in Secret Wars, and then you've got Doctor Strange 3, which actually happens before Doomsday.
It's gonna,
That's why Black Widow happened before
Yeah.
Endgame,
it's
obviously.
gonna be Star Wars:
Yeah.
The Clone Wars Marvel edition. It's gonna be Marvel's.
I mean,
Tales from
why
I
do
really
it's kind of
didn't-
why do it at this point?
Yeah, it's weird.
I honestly really didn't care about Multiverse of Madness.
I'm literally gonna.
it wasn't that
I'm gonna
great.
laugh if we get a Tales from.
I
the
actually
Secret,
liked it.
from the Secret Wars where there's
Tale-
like
Tales from the
Aw.
Secret Wars is that what you said?
yes, where
Oh,
it's like
yeah.
all
Marvel
the
doesn't-
extra.
That
stuff.
actually could be a decent way to. That's like what if. It would be like
What
the
if,
what
but
if,
better.
what if, but Secret Wars.
Literally, honestly, it
Tales
doesn't-
from the Secret
It doesn't
Wars.
even need to be what if because it would be canon at that point.
No, yeah,
It's what if
No, I mean-
should have been.
no, that's what I'm saying. It's like what if, in that you can tell all these stories that you wish they told.
yeah.
Tales
But
from that would actually be hilarious. That would be
Tales from the
great.
Secret
Disney, if you're listening, Marvel, if you're listening, Tales from the Secret Wars. That's your next title.
Good God.
Next Disney Plus show. All right, with that, if you guys liked what you heard, like, share, subscribe, leave a note in the comments. We'd love to talk back to you about any of your thoughts or all of our thoughts. And way to just freeze yourself on the screen. I don't even know if I have time to fix that before I
was
tell
gonna
everybody
say,
goodbye.
It's been frozen for like 5 minutes.
Not 5. I've been checking it. But you're back. Now be still. Anyway, like, share, subscribe. Ring the bell, get notifications, leave us a comment, and we are out of here.